I'm a single mom struggling to make ends meet while raising my 5-year-old son. I work two jobs, one as a waitress during the day and another as a night shift worker at a local factory. It's tough, but I manage to scrape by. Every penny counts, which is why I'm always on the lookout for good deals and coupons. This particular day, I had collected a stack of coupons for various items. I was excited because I knew I could save a significant amount on my grocery bill. My son was with his father for the weekend, so I decided to do a big shop to stock up on essentials. I arrived at the store early Saturday morning, hoping to beat the rush. With my cart and coupon binder in hand, I started making my way through the aisles. Everything was going smoothly until I reached the cereal aisle. I was checking the prices of different cereals when I heard a commotion behind me. I turned around to see a woman, let's call her Karen, arguing with a store employee. Karen was loudly complaining about the store being out of Lucky Charms. She was incredulous, stating that she had driven all the way there specifically for that cereal. The employee apologized and explained that they had a rush on Lucky Charms the day before, but assured her that a new shipment was expected on Monday. Karen wasn't satisfied with this answer. She dramatically exclaimed that her kids only ate Lucky Charms for breakfast and demanded to know what she was supposed to feed them now. There were at least 20 other types of cereal on the shelves. Surely her kids could survive on something else for a couple of days. I tried to ignore the situation and continue with my shopping, but Karen wasn't done yet. Suddenly, Karen turned her attention to me. She accusingly asked if I had taken the last box of Lucky Charms. Confused, I asked her what she meant. She explained that she had seen me putting cereal in my cart and wanted to know if it was Lucky Charms. I told her that it wasn't, and even if it was, I had every right to buy whatever cereal I wanted. Karen, not believing me, insisted on checking my cart herself. Before I could stop her, she marched over and started rummaging through my cart. I was shocked by her audacity. I yelled at her to stop, telling her she couldn't just go through my cart. Karen triumphantly held up a box of cereal, claiming she had caught me with Lucky Charms. However, it wasn't Lucky Charms at all. It was a generic brand of marshmallow cereal that was on sale. I pointed out her mistake and asked her to leave me alone and stop touching my things. Instead of apologizing, Karen sneered at me, implying that I thought I was too good for name brands and was trying to act superior by buying cheap cereal. This woman was creating a scene over cereal, and now she was insulting me for trying to save money. I told her that I didn't know what her problem was, but she needed to back off, and that my shopping choices were none of her business. Karen warned me not to talk to her like that, boasting about her husband being a lawyer and threatening that she could have the store shut down if she wanted to. By this point, a small crowd had gathered, watching the spectacle unfold. The store employee who had been dealing with Karen earlier approached us. He asked if everything was okay. Karen immediately started ranting, accusing me of hoarding all the Lucky Charms and refusing to give her a box for her precious children. I defended myself, explaining that I didn't even have any Lucky Charms and that Karen was making a scene over nothing. The employee, clearly exasperated, reminded Karen that they were out of Lucky Charms and that I didn't have any either. He warned her to calm down or he'd have to ask her to leave. This only fueled Karen's anger further. She demanded to speak to the manager immediately. The employee sighed and walked away, presumably to get the manager. I tried to take this opportunity to escape the situation, but Karen wasn't done with me yet. As I started to leave, she demanded to know where I thought I was going, insisting that we weren't finished. I told her that we were indeed finished and that I had nothing more to say to her. I started to push my cart away, but Karen grabbed onto it, trying to stop me. She demanded that I give her the cereal, claiming that her kids deserved it more than mine. I yelled at her to let go of my cart, telling her she was being ridiculous. As we struggled over the cart, Karen's arm knocked over a display of canned goods. The cans clattered to the floor, creating a huge racket. That's when the manager arrived on the scene. He demanded to know what was going on. Karen immediately launched into her version of events, painting herself as a victim. She accused me of attacking her, refusing to share the Lucky Charms, and then pushing her into the display. I quickly defended myself, explaining that Karen had been harassing me and tried to steal from my cart. The manager looked between us, clearly trying to make sense of the situation. That's when I remembered something crucial. I suggested that they check the security cameras, which would show exactly what happened. Karen's face paled at the mention of cameras. The manager nodded and asked us both to come to the office while he reviewed the footage. Karen tried to protest, but the manager insisted. After about 15 minutes of reviewing the footage, the manager emerged from his office. His face was stern as he addressed Karen. He informed her that he had seen the footage, and it was clear that she was the aggressor in the situation. He listed her offenses: harassing me, attempting to take items from my cart, and causing damage to store property. The manager then asked her to leave the premises immediately. Karen was outraged. She threatened to sue the store and have the manager's job. The manager calmly reminded her that they had video evidence of her behavior and warned that if she didn't leave, he would be forced to call the police. Karen stormed out of the store, but not before shooting me a venomous glare. The manager then turned to me, apologizing for what I'd been through. He offered me a discount on my shopping as compensation for the trouble. As I loaded my groceries into my car, I saw Karen in the parking lot screaming into her phone. I quickly got into my car and drove away, hoping to never encounter her again. I've always been the fun aunt, the one who takes the kids on adventures and treats them to special outings. It's not just because I love spoiling my daughter and niece, it's also because I remember how much those little moments meant to me when I was growing up. My sister and I didn't have the easiest childhood. Our parents worked long hours to make ends meet, so we often had to entertain ourselves. That's why now that I'm a mom myself, I make it a point to create those magical memories for the next generation. So when my sister called, frazzled about not finding daycare for her older girl during the school holidays, I jumped at the chance to help out. I told her to send her daughter over, suggesting we'd have a girls' day out with just me, her daughter, and mine. I proposed calling it the Older Sister Club. I could practically hear the relief in my sister's voice. She thanked me profusely, saying she owed me one. I brushed off her thanks, telling her that's what sisters are for. The local skate rink seemed like the perfect spot for our outing. It had that nostalgic charm that brought back memories of my own childhood, plus enough modern amenities to keep the kids entertained. My daughter, all of 7 years old but already so confident, was giving her younger cousin pointers on how to balance. After a few laps around the rink, my daughter asked if they could play some games. I nodded, leading them over to the arcade area. My daughter's eyes lit up when she saw the air hockey table. She asked if she could spend some of her pocket money on that, noting that the claw machines were such a ripoff. I chuckled, proud of her budding financial savvy, and gave her permission. The girls eagerly inserted our $2 coin and started their game. It was heartwarming to watch them laugh and play, their competitive spirits coming out as they tried to outscore each other. We were a few minutes into the game when a little boy, probably around 5 or 6, marched up to the table. Without any politeness, he tried to shove my daughter aside, demanding a turn. My daughter handled it like a champ. She stopped the puck and calmly told him that she and her cousin were playing right now. The boy turned to me, clearly hoping I'd take his side. I refused, explaining that the girls were having their turn. I told him that if he wanted to play, it would cost $2, and if he didn't have someone to play with, one of my girls could play with him, but he'd need to get his adult to pay for his turn. Undeterred, the boy tried to push my niece away from the table. That's when I stepped in, physically placing myself between him and the girls. I repeated my earlier statement more firmly, emphasizing that the girls had paid for their turn and that after they were done, he could have a turn, but it would cost him or his adult $2. A moment later, I felt a tap on my arm. I turned to see a woman standing there, the very picture of entitlement. From her perfectly coiffed hair to her fancy handbag, everything about her screamed, "I always get my way." She informed me that her son wanted to play, as if that statement alone should make me drop everything. I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. I explained that he could go on when my girls were done and that it cost $2 a turn. I pointed at the coin slots just in case she somehow missed them. The woman's eyes narrowed and she insisted that her son wanted to play now. I calmly reiterated that my girls had paid for their turn and were playing. I repeated that her son was welcome to go next, but that was our only $2 coin. She then said she didn't have $2, as if admitting to some grave injustice I had personally inflicted upon her. I raised an eyebrow and commented on how unfortunate that was. She continued to stare at me, clearly expecting me to magically produce a solution that would satisfy her precious little angel. When the silence stretched on, I added that it was also not my problem. She lost it as she realized I wasn't going to back down. She opened her mouth, no doubt to unleash a tirade, but at that moment, my daughter scored her 6th point, ending the game. I quickly called to the girls, ushering them away from the table and towards the rink, suggesting we get back to skating. Later, as we sat enjoying some well-earned ice cream, my daughter thanked me for sticking up for them. I affectionately ruffled her hair and assured her that's what moms are for. These were the moments that mattered, the ones they'd remember long after they'd outgrown the skate rink, and no entitled parent was going to ruin that for us. I've been working for the local utility company for about 5 years now. It's tough work, especially during the winter months when we get hit with blizzards and ice storms. But someone's got to keep the lights on, right? Anyway, this particular morning I had just finished a grueling 14-hour shift. It was around 5 a.m. and I was dead on my feet. But I knew I had another long shift coming up later that day, so I decided to stop by the gas station to fuel up and grab some snacks. When I pulled into the station, I noticed a tanker truck making a delivery. No big deal, I thought. I filled up my car and headed inside to stock up on energy drinks and whatever junk food looked edible. That's when things got weird. I was standing there staring at the snack aisle trying to decide between chips or cookies when I heard a shrill voice behind me. I turned around confused. There was a lady glaring at me like I'd just insulted her grandma or something. The woman, who I'll call Karen, started yelling at me about moving my truck. I was confused and asked for clarification. She yelled louder, insisting I move my truck right away. I looked out the window, trying to figure out what she was talking about. I pointed to my car, asking if that's what she meant. Karen then clarified she was talking about the tanker truck. She explained her tire situation and her urgency. I told her it wasn't my semi. She insisted she had just watched me walk inside half a minute ago. I repeated that it wasn't my truck. I was starting to get annoyed. I was wearing a high-visibility jacket, sure, but so were half the people in town this time of year. It didn't make me a truck driver. I told her again that it wasn't my truck, I didn't work there, and asked her to leave me alone. Just then, a sheriff's deputy walked in. Talk about perfect timing. He asked if there was a problem. Karen explained the situation from her perspective. I clarified my position and explained the misunderstanding. The deputy looked between us, then told Karen to show him what she was talking about. They went outside and I breathed a sigh of relief. I paid for my stuff and headed out, passing the actual truck driver on his way out of the bathroom. I was loading my snacks into my car when curiosity got the better of me. I wandered over to Karen's SUV just to see what all the fuss was about. That's when I saw it. Her license plates were expired. Not just a little expired either. They were from October 2018, a full 14 months out of date. I couldn't believe it. Here she was, making a big stink about a low tire, when she was driving around with plates that expired over a year ago. I was about to leave when I saw the deputy walking back towards Karen's car, notepad in hand. He didn't look happy. He asked Karen to step aside for a moment. Karen tried to bring up her tire again, but the deputy assured her the tire was fine. He explained about the air pump's long hose but mentioned there was something else concerning him. Karen, sounding impatient, asked what it was and reminded him of her hurry. The deputy then informed her about her expired vehicle registration and the need to issue a citation. Karen was shocked and tried to claim she had just forgotten to put on the new sticker. The deputy explained he had already run her plates and there was no current registration on file. He told her about the need to impound her vehicle. Karen, getting angry, tried to use her connections, mentioning her husband's friendship with the mayor. The deputy calmly explained about the equal application of the law and informed Karen she would need to call for a ride. When I drove away, I saw Karen throwing a full-on tantrum in the parking lot, screaming at the poor deputy who was just doing his job. It wasn't exactly how I planned to end my shift, but watching karma in action, that was worth losing a little sleep over. But the story doesn't end there. About a week later, I was called out to a residential area for an emergency power outage. When I pulled up to the address there, standing on the porch with a flashlight, was none other than Karen from the gas station. She didn't recognize me at first, probably because I wasn't wearing my high-visibility jacket this time. I walked up to her house, tool belt in hand, and asked about the power situation. She started explaining the problem, but then suddenly stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes widened as recognition dawned on her face. Karen mistook me for the truck driver from the gas station. I chuckled and corrected her, explaining that I worked for the utility company, just as I had told her that day. I then suggested we take a look at her power problem. When I was working to restore her power, it was filled with a ton of awkward silence. By the time I finished fixing the power outage, I was ready to book it out of there, and that's exactly what I did.